Yeah.
This is Sarah Linda. I'm here now.
Now we got your audio.
And there's Richard, Donna.
Okay. All right.
How about Ray? Has anybody heard from Ray?
No.
No.
Okay. I think Ray is the only person that we're expecting who is not on yet. Ed was not able to do it, and same with Joe, with Nancy Goodnow, with Tony, and with Jared. So Ray is the only one. Let me give Ray a call and see what's going on.
Oh. Oh, I did. Okay.
Speaker.
Perfect.
Hi, Ray. This is Sarah Linda. I'm on the Zoom call with many of the other history team members, and we're wondering if you're going to be able to participate. You can call me back on either of my numbers, the landline or the cell. Your invitation to join the meeting should have come to you by email this morning. Thanks. Bye. Well, until Ray gets here, shall we just go ahead with the meeting?
Sure.
What I had intended was to let Ray be first on the agenda. So why don't we give him a few minutes to see if he's able to get on, and we'll go back to that.
Okay.
First of all, thank you all for coming in on this unconventional form of meeting. I've only done a few of these myself, so it's not my first choice, but this is what we've got to do for the foreseeable future. Just to go through the agenda that I sent out on a few days ago, we've been kind of shut down from the activities that we more or less had intended to do in the spring and summer. As you probably all know, the Historic Resources Survey, the grant was not submitted after all, so that's put off indefinitely. Our long-term project of documenting historic sites before demolition, there has been one kind of notable case of documentation that we've done in the last few weeks. That's a building on Westlake Road. The address is, oh, hang on a second, here's Ray. Hi, Ray, how are you? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Well, that was odd. That said it was a call from Ray, but he wasn't there. So anyway, okay, Erica has put up on the screen the location of this property. It is just about opposite the intersection of Wells Curtis Road and West Lake Road. And it changed hands a couple of years ago, and now the new owner is in the planning stages for designing a new house and replacing the existing cottage.
Is this the Bingham house?
No.
No? Okay, so it's something different, huh?
It's a house that in recent decades belonged to the Ginny Hamlin family, and her kids, Tim Hamlin and Vicky Trumbauer, were the owners for the last 30 years or so, and they sold it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a
Okay.
house that's known as Red Cedar Lodge, and some of you may be familiar with it because it was on a OCHS historic home tour of homes on Westlake Road back
Yeah.
in 2011.
That's the one we were at, Red Cedar Lodge. Yeah.
So they took it down, or they're going to?
Well, they haven't taken it down yet, but they do plan to take it down. It's a house that is, you don't really see it from the road
No.
because it's about
Yeah.
halfway down to the lake.
I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Yeah,
Too
and it
bad
has a
it's
big
one of the
porch
last
across the
remaining
front, and it
houses.
has a wooden kind of cribbing platform down at the lake level, which dates all the way back to, it was a steamboat landing. Because this
Oh,
house
wow.
apparently was built as a fruit storage barn in something like the 1880s, and then
Wow.
was converted in the 19-teens. It was converted to a dormitory that operated in connection with a hotel down at Menteith Point called the Walter Rita Hotel. So
Yeah.
this was kind of an overflow building that possibly some staff members or possibly guests at the Walter Rita would stay up here. And anyway, it's quite unusual and interesting and very well preserved. Not really a whole lot of alterations since the conversion of it to residential use in the 19-teens. So
Yeah.
the current owner was contacted by the town. He was quite amenable to the idea of the documentation, and Richard and I went and visited it last week and got some good photographs, both interior and exterior. And he's given us a survey map. I'm going to ask him again. I forgot to ask him for the abstract of title, but we'll see if we can get that. And he also offered the town any artifacts that we wanted from the house, or
Oh, great.
you know, said he would be glad to
Don't know.
follow up on any suggestions for salvage of historic features of the house. So he seems to be quite cooperative, and I think we'll be able to do a very good job of putting together a package that includes photographs and a sketch floor plan for each floor, and the write-ups that Ray did back 10 years ago when it was on the tour of homes, which give a good, you know, kind of basic description.
Sarah
Yeah.
Linda,
What's the,
this is Gil Smith.
Hi, Gil.
At the tour of homes, Richie and I were in that home as the host.
Oh, good.
It is a marvelous place and certainly worthy of our effort.
I certainly agree. It's a real loss to have that house torn down. It's quite unusual, and it's really well preserved. The current owners just haven't really changed very much at all. And I think that was true of the prior owners. That the current, I mean, not the current ones, but the Hamlin family bought it in 1963, I think, and owned it until maybe 2017. So
Sarah Linda,
yes.
is there any potential to move it?
Boy, that's an interesting question. Well, you can see the size of it in this aerial view. It's a pretty big house. and it's a pretty steep driveway.
Oh, it certainly is a steep drive.
Yeah, you've been down there, you know it.
Just a shame to lose it.
It is a shame to lose it. You're right. You're right.
You know, another idea, that house reminded me very much of the house on Whiskey Point, right on the point. It used to belong to the Wright family, Alan Wright, Barb Chan Wright. And I think our state senator bought that, and he wanted to move the road behind his property. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was Mary Granger's house, right?
Yeah, that was Mary Granger's, and she was related to the Wrights. Anyway, he went through and in preserving the outside of the house, he modernized the inside, so it's really quite lovely, but he was still able to keep the outside the same. And I'm just wondering if the prospective owner of this house or the new owner of the house that's gone through wouldn't be interested in looking at what could be done to salvage the outside and still get a modern kind of structure on the inside. I don't know. I hate to see it taken down, but I know we have no say.
We don't, at least, we don't really have a say to be like, you can't take it down.
Hi, Ray. This is, yes.
However, there is, in the planning board, they have to review a lot of the disturbance and variances and all that good stuff that might come along with a project like this. So I wouldn't say that like right now it's a foregone conclusion that it will be demolished. It may be that, the costs of complying with town code are so strict, or that, it doesn't get the variances that it needs, or something to that effect, that it may be preserved for a little while longer, and maybe they'll decide to, just try to use what's existing there as opposed to demolishing it. But that remains to be seen.
Could the town suggest to the new owner to maybe look at the Alisi house that's down on Whiskey Point, if he would be amenable to that?
We could certainly suggest it, but it wouldn't,
Because
if they said no, we wouldn't really have any footing to tell them.
No, I would never. I know, I understand that, but I think if to make the person at least aware of another alternative of being able to preserve it and still get some modernization inside, because he did quite a job on the inside of that place. Yet it looks the same from the outside, a little nicer actually than it used to be. But it would just be a suggestion, I would think, that the town could make during his application processes.
Yeah, it's probably best to do it right now before he even draws up.
Good idea.
Right.
It's on the east side.
Yeah.
It should be right next to the one bedroom chapel. I think it's right there.
Hold on, we're getting like feedback from different people here. Okay. No, I guess we're good. What did you say? I'm sorry.
Okay, that was Ray. He misunderstood about the meeting, but he is going to attempt to join us by phone. So that'll take him a few minutes. So is that it on the Red Cedar Lodge? I kind of missed the
Sarah Linda,
tail end of that discussion.
Sarah Linda, this is Lois. Just had a quick question on that. Do we know what the year that that house was originally constructed?
The date that I have is approximately 1880.
Okay, thank you.
So, I mean, I don't know where the discussion went when I got on the phone with Ray instead, but my feeling about this is it's a little too late for us to pop up with suggestions about trying to save the house. The owner is already well down the road toward evaluating it. I mean, I don't know that he intended I don't know that he bought it with the intention of demolishing it, but he has concluded that there's a lot of structural damage and, you know, it's just trying to preserve the house is not something he's interested in. And I think in future situations where you see a building that you know is historic come on the market, that's the time to start talking about ways of trying to encourage preservation rather than, you know, making these suggestions at the 11th hour. That's my personal feeling on it anyway.
Hey, Richard? Richard, is everybody else having audio issues hearing?
Yeah, I couldn't hear that, whatever it was.
Yes.
Right.
It comes out as like really high pitched.
It sounded, yeah. Who was talking then?
Richard West.
No, it wasn't Richard. I can see Richard. His mouth wasn't moving.
Oh,
Lois, was that you?
No, I heard it, but it's not me.
Okay, and how about Nancy?
It's not I.
Was not you? Who the heck was that? Well, maybe
Did
this
he-
has something to do with Ray trying to call into the meeting. Anyway, all right, let's move on for a minute to the walking tour of Cheshire. I hope you saw the newsletter that came out earlier this week, or I guess it was last Friday actually, which did include a link to the Cheshire walking tour. I haven't gotten any feedback from anybody, so I have no idea if it was, you know, if anybody saw it or looked at it or what they thought. But if you have if anybody mentions it to you or they have any suggestions, let me know, because it's not difficult at all to revise. So let's see, the next thing is the documentation about the lockdown. Jared Simpson said he was teaching today and was not able to join us, but he did assign to his students the task of making a little video about what they were up to during the quarantine. And I sent a link to that around this morning, or I guess it was yesterday, along with the notice of the meeting. I thought, and there are 9 individual little essays or audio essays by 9 of Jared's students. And he's expecting a 10th one, which is from Jamie Farr, the superintendent of schools. So that one should be a little bit different. The 9 that I saw all had a definite middle school flavor to them. Did anybody have a chance to look at them?
I have not yet.
I did listen to them all, Sarah Linda. I think the word of the day is it's boring. But they were cute. But yeah.
I think the aspect, I don't know when they were done, but the aspect that seemed to have the greatest effect on them was the potential disappearance of toilet paper from the
Right.
world. They thought that was just absolutely unthinkable. So anyway, the rest of you look them over and let us know what you think. Emily also offered to start some sort of a recording among people that she knew, but I haven't heard back from her, so I don't know where that went. And the newsletter is one of the only things that we're really able to keep going during this period of low activity. Ed has agreed to do a newsletter article for the July newsletter, and that will be about the Historical Society and what they were doing during the shutdown. And they expect to be open by then and have a new exhibit going, and they also have a new director, Marcy Deal. So, and by the way, Marcy is interested in becoming a member of our team. So hopefully the next time we get together, you can all meet her if you don't already know her.
Good.
So on to new business. I'm going to assume that Ray is not going to be able to connect. So I will let you know the news about Ray, which is that he has decided to retire as town historian as of the 1st of July. And this is something he's accelerating. He had kind of intended to do it as of the end of the year, and with the pandemic out there and particular threat to older people, he decided it would be a good idea to do it earlier rather than waiting until the end of the year. So the town is going to be looking for a new town historian, and if any history team members have an interest in the job, or if you know anybody else who might have an interest in the job, by all means, let Doug Finch know. Doug, the town manager, is going to be handling the task of finding a new town historian, and I don't know what the timeline will be on that. I think most likely he'll take his time, and there may be a period of you know, the town being without a town historian for however long it takes to find the right person. So, and I haven't heard from Doug anything about, you know, how this might affect the history team. Ray has said he does want to keep on as a member of the history team, and with Marcy joining it as well, you know, we should have a good level of personnel, and certainly the new town historian, once that person comes online, will be part of our group as well. So the town board will be announcing this probably at their next meeting, whenever that is. So it'll become public knowledge within the next few weeks anyway. The next thing is, excuse me, the town has started their budget process for 2021. The 2020 budget has gotten quite kind of constrained as a result of the hit to sales tax that has happened in the last, over the course of the spring. So for that reason, the history team's 2020 budget has more or less gotten wiped out, and same with the portion of that budget that was for the local match to our historic resources survey. So we've basically been told we don't have any money to spend between now and the end of the year, but we have been asked, along with all the departments, to put in a request for whatever funds we think we would want for next year. This year our budget was $1,500 plus the local match to the grant, and that amounted to another, I think, somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. So, and I don't believe we spent any of that yet, unless possibly, Richard, did you put in a request for any of the materials you bought for the map project? I don't know, maybe we lost Richard. Anyway,
He's here, he's just muted.
Oh, he's muted, okay. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
be that
I
as
guess
it may,
maybe,
any thoughts
May-
on what we should ask for next year? I mean, I think the town,
Well, I would-
Doug's assumption is that we will apply for the Preserve New York grant next year rather than this year. And so I think it's safe to assume that the town will support, well, I guess I shouldn't assume anything, but I think it's worth hoping anyway that the town will support a grant application along the same lines we were intending to do this year in 2021. So unless we have other new projects that we really want to make a case for, my inclination would be to just say we want the same thing in 2021 that we had in 2020. We want the local match for the grant application, and we want another $1,500 to do whatever discretionary projects such as reproductions, publications, public programs, posters, whatever sorts of miscellaneous educational materials make sense. That's the easiest request to make anyway.
that sounds good to me.
Thoughts on that?
Rich, is your volume on now? It is Richard. Oh, is he the one whose voice is funny? I don't know. They're not coming through properly?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
heard a little squeak.
Like a chipmunk.
Sorry, Rich.
Oh, don't. Rich, can you hear us?
How about Donna?
Yes, can you hear me? I'm on my phone.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. I'll ask him if he submitted anything for any of his materials. I don't know whether he has or not.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I think he's shaking his head no.
No, okay. Any thoughts from the team members on, new projects we ought to talk about that would suggest that we ask for more money than we had this year, next year?
I got to imagine it's going to be difficult to get more money.
Right, I don't think we can even count on getting the same amount of money, so.
Well, what is the Remington Cemetery project? Is that something that's going to require money that we would need next year?
That's a good question. The Remington Cemetery project, if I can speak for Ray, I believe what he had in mind was doing the same sort of thing for the Remington Cemetery that was done last fall for the Hun Cemetery. And that would include putting a fence around it and creating a good map so that we can, so that there'd be an accurate little flyer that would allow you to see who's buried where and give you a little aerial view of the cemetery.
Sarah Linda?
Yes. Hi, Gil.
Yeah, Gil Smith. I was up there yesterday and talked to the adjacent property owner, the fellow that owns the shed or the barn in front of the cemetery.
Is that Mr. Pettinger?
I didn't get his name.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, in our conversation, it seemed as though he felt that people coming in weren't parking in the places that he thought would be appropriate, which is basically on the west side of the road end. And apparently the town had put some base to that road in that low area. The second thing is that because there aren't any markings, people just assume, as I had, that the road up the hill to the barn was the road to the cemetery. And it isn't. It's his road. I think if we were to better mark the cemetery out there on the road and have markings of where people were supposed to park, that he might be happier and people would find the cemetery easier.
Where is this again?
I
I'm sorry.
wanted to discuss that with Ray, but in his absence, that was my takeaway from visiting the cemetery.
Where is the access to the cemetery? If it's not on that road, is it still off of Knott Road?
Well, it's off from Knott Road, but when you get on the entrance road to the cemetery, it's a private road and the town apparently has an easement. And if there is no indication as to where you park, the sort of intuitive place to park would be up by the barn, which blocks the gentleman's access to his barn. So if people stopped down on the road, the access road in, a few hundred feet in, and parked on the left, it would not impede his use of his barn, which apparently has been an issue.
Well, if the town has an easement to get access to that cemetery, but that's not the same as legal public access to the cemetery. I mean, I got the impression from Ray that the public was not really encouraged to go and visit that cemetery. Is that correct, or no?
That is my understanding, but the practice is that without guidance, the public that comes to use the cemetery causes disruption to the adjacent property owner.
Well, maybe the proper thing to do would be to put a sign out by the road saying private property. If you want access to the Remington Cemetery, please contact the town historian. And then that could, something could be arranged like that. Because we don't really, we don't want to be in the position of encouraging people to trespass. Right?
Well, it might be worth asking the property owner what might be done to minimize the people that are causing him a problem. I'm not hearing anything. I am now.
Gail, can you hear me? This is Lois.
Yes.
I just had a question for you based on your conversation, and I'm excuse me. I'm curious because I do think this is the cemetery that I thought we really weren't supposed to visit, and so when I was personally touring them all, we didn't go to that one. But do you know how often people are coming in there, and if they are they family members of people that have been buried there, or they're just curious about the cemetery, or what's the nature of, does he know what?
Till yesterday, my last contact in the cemetery was 20 years ago.
Oh.
So I am reporting the essence of my conversation with the adjacent owner yesterday, and I have nothing no knowledge other than that. I just thought I should look at it before we talk about it.
Mm, right. Well, I was just curious how often people are going in there if he's,
Well, it isn't very big. I was aware of a gentleman in Canandaigua who I believe had a relative in it, but he's passed away, so I really can't tell you. The adjacent owner said that the person caring for the grass was the most frequent visitor.
mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean the town pays somebody to mow it? Is that the deal?
Pardon?
Did you get the impression that the town pays somebody to mow that cemetery?
That is the impression he gave me.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
And it looked that way,
It looked like it had been regularly mowed. Okay,
or at least recently.
that makes sense. Well, whatever project Ray had in mind for the Remington Cemetery, I think is still in his mind. So I will take it upon myself to talk with Ray before I write up the minutes for this meeting and see if I can clarify what the status is and what Ray knows about visitation and what he had in mind for either fencing or other improvements to the cemetery. It does seem as if with all the, I think there are 10 cemeteries in the town and there are 2 of them that are inaccessible to the public. This is one of them and the other one is the one that's in the woods there that was just dug out last year or the year before. The
Red Dock, I think.
Red Dock or I can't remember the other
Wolverton.
name. Wolverton. It's got a few names.
Wolverton, yeah.
But the others are all up close to the road and you know, straightforward, owned by the town, not just an easement, and also open to the public. So it would seem as if the town history team is going to get involved in a project for one of the cemeteries, it might be a good idea to pick one that at least there aren't these issues over access. I mean, the Lucas Cemetery is one, or the Academy Cemetery, or the Cooley Road Cemetery. There are a whole slew of them. So I'll talk that over with Ray and see if I can clarify why he picked out the Remington Cemetery and what it was that he had in mind.
That sounds good.
Right.
Actually, now that I'm looking at this aerial view that Eric has up on the screen, I think I see what you're talking about in terms of the barn. The barn is the thing that when you come up the driveway and then you go off to the left, there's sort of a loop around a building. That's the barn?
Well, the roadway runs up to the barn.
Okay, and then all those little white dots that are in back of the barn to the north of the barn, that's the cemetery?
In the next parcel,
That's correct.
the ones that are adjacent to the building.
Oh, I see.
Right,
Okay,
is
so
it-
does the town own that parcel?
That
It says
parcel?
it's owned by, well, it says Root Cemetery, but the owner's address is the town hall. So I assume it's the town.
Okay, so there is a entity, the Root Cemetery, huh? Okay, so that clarifies one thing. That is that the town must own the thing, but it just doesn't have a, it doesn't have a owned access way either out to Knott Road or to Middle Cheshire Road.
Sarah Linda? Sarah Linda?
Yes?
This is Gil. My recollection from 20 years ago is that Roswell Root deeded the cemetery to the town and named 2 trustees to oversee the cemetery. They obviously are dead long ago, but there is a 1828 deed from Root to the town, which specifies what's there. I assume the town, in trying to determine its right to access, has reviewed that deed. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I remember Ray talking at previous meetings about how he has an understanding with the owner of the barn, Pettinger, to go and put flags on the graves there on Memorial Day.
What is
And I
the-
don't know whether he does it on Veterans Day too, but I believe he had said, Memorial Day anyway, to put the flags there, and that he does that himself.
What is the name of the adjacent owner?
Pettinger, isn't it, Carolyn, a
Yes,
Pettinger?
it's Steve Pettinger, Pettinger.
Thank you.
It's his barn, his tractor's in it.
Oh,
The pictures we've seen give a good representation, as I saw yesterday.
okay. So it looks like there are at least 50 graves there, maybe more.
Yes.
50, 60, 80, something like that.
Wow.
And it goes way back to the north.
So it doesn't look like there would be an easy way to create a parking area on the land itself.
No, as I understood it from talking to the gentleman, it would be more convenient for him if the parking was on his entrance road, but on the left-hand side of the road. So that if there were to be excess gravel put in at the base of that road up to his building for parking, just one car wide, to have a 10-foot parking place, maybe for 2 cars from that road toward his house. It would make the parking of cemetery users more or less disagreeable for him.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I can also see why a fence would make sense here, because you could, if you had a fence around all 4 sides of the property, you could create a location where there's an opening in the fence, and that would be adjacent to where the parking is. And then maybe you could even run a little, gravel drive up, or at least a gravel walkway up from the driveway towards the opening in the gate. And that would make it clear to people both where they should park and also how they should get into the cemetery. And that would kind of keep people from wandering around Pettinger's property.
I agree. Casual users need guidance as to how to use the property.
Right. Okay, well, this makes good sense. Is there any other new business anyone would like to bring up?
Can't think
Sarah,
of
Linda,
anything.
this is Lois. I just have a question before we finish the other topic, because you were asking for comments about how much we might want to ask for in the budget. We did not incur any expense for the Hun Cemetery for the actual fencing materials, did we?
No, that came out of the town historian's budget. The town historian has a budget that includes both the salary costs for the historian and some miscellaneous costs, for operations of his office. And it also includes some costs that are related to the maintenance of the cemeteries, including a ongoing contract that the town has with a gravestone repair craftsman by the name of Peter Ellison. So I think the town typically pays him a couple $1,000s a year to do grave marker repairs. And in 2019, that budget also included the money to create the fence at Hun Cemetery. So, and the other expense associated with that was the printing of the brochure, which was a few $100s. And that was paid for out of the town historian's budget too.
Okay. Well, because when you were talking about that Ray was suggesting putting a fence around the Remington Cemetery, I didn't know. It sounded like that fence might be more extensive than what we did at Han, and so I wasn't sure if that was something that would come out of our budget, and, you know, did we want to include that? So.
Well, that's a good point, and I will raise that, because if there is no town historian to argue for a budget, maybe that's an easy thing for them to ignore, and maybe it's appropriate for them to ignore it this time. I mean, you know, a fence like that costs a few $1,000s, so
Right, that's what I was thinking.
this is probably not the year to suggest it, because it's,
Right.
you know, there's not exactly a lot of extra money sloshing around. But on the other hand, it would be good to have a scheme so that we know what we want to do and where we want to put it and where people should park and all those things. So that when the time comes that there is money to do it, we'll be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
This is Donna. Wasn't the Hun fence an Eagle Scout project? So usually for an Eagle Scout project, I thought they go out and they get the funds for that, for whatever their project is.
That is sometimes true, but not always. And in this case, I think the Eagle Scouts' role was sort of organizing more than fundraising. Or
Okay.
possibly the Eagle Scout persuaded a certain number of people to donate their labor. I mean, I think that did happen. But there was some money that went into the post hole digging and the purchase of materials to put the split rail fence up. So
Okay.
I don't know how much it was. Yeah, you're right though. This is another good candidate as an Eagle Scout project. We ought to keep that in mind.
This is Gil Smith. I think that if the south and west portions of the cemetery, as shown on this map, were fenced, it would alleviate the difficulties. It doesn't have to go as far north as we're now viewing. It's only for the southwest corner of the cemetery where access would be likely that I think merits a fence.
Yep, you're right. I mean, the other two sides could be delineated by another means, like maybe a row of trees or shrubs or something like that. I mean, it would be nice to have the boundaries designated one way or another.
Well, the northern portion of what we're looking at has only a few graves on it
Yep.
and would not be
Yeah.
likely to draw anybody to it other than the fellow mowing.
Well, in the discussion about budget, I'll definitely raise the question about the Remington Cemetery and the need for maybe some financial support there when the time comes to make some improvements.
Right.
I think that's appropriate to get on the table.
Okay? Any other suggestions? What do you think about continuing to meet if Zoom is our only alternative, or as long as Zoom is our only alternative? I've got to think that eventually we will be allowed to meet in person, but I can't predict when that could be.
I will not be able to meet the 4th of July week if you decide to meet then.
Yeah, I guess July 2nd would be the next first Thursday.
Mhm.
I'm kind of inclined to go into a less active mode during the summer here because we don't have a lot of projects that are ongoing. And so I would suggest that we schedule another meeting for September, and just, unless something comes up that we really need to discuss, to plan to meet again in September and hopefully in person. But if not, then by Zoom, and we'll at least hopefully have Marcy Deal on board and ready to join us. And, if we're lucky, we'll have another town historian then too. So what do you think about that?
Sounds fine.
I would second that. Yeah, I would
I
too.
think that's a good idea.
I certainly am supportive of that.
Okay, sounds good. What about, we still need a newsletter for August, or August and September. Are there anybody like to volunteer to put one together? I mean, we could continue to use the material in the Cheshire Walking Tour and do another chapter in the Cheshire Then and Now series. So that wouldn't be too difficult, but if there are other history related subjects that anybody would like to put together, let me know.
It might be of interest, since we are discussing the Remington Cemetery, to maybe do a short article on that cemetery and its accessibility, and maybe some of the future plans for accessibility. I mean, personally, we drive up and down that road a lot, and I always want to go there, but I never know whether I could or not. So even if, there was something had been written up, that other people might have that question too. It doesn't have to be long. Maybe Ray could put something together answering that question. Is it accessible? Is it inaccessible, and will it always be inaccessible, or what are the plans?
That would help provide guidance, as I had suggested.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay. Well, I will ask Ray if he's willing to well, when I talk to Ray, I'll see if he's willing to write something up, and otherwise I'll put out an appeal and see if somebody else might like to do it.
Well,
Okay.
Ray is the one who has the understanding with the property owner.
Right.
Right.
That
Right.
needs to be taken into consideration.
Yep. So he's the central figure here. Well,
Or maybe
I'm
it
sorry
could
you
be,
couldn't join us
it
today.
could be, or maybe it could be presented as an interview of the property owner next door and his perspective.
That would help inform people.
Yep, and what it could even be from the standpoint of what it's like to live next door to such a historic cemetery.
Well, the other one.
Not many
that's-
people are that close.
Yeah, that's true. He really is close.
Nancy, do you mean in case any ghosts come out at night?
Yeah, I think that would be really would
cuts down their
attract
expense for
people to
Halloween.
read it. We could do a little creative writing.
Well, with both this one and the other one, the Wolverton Cemetery, I know Ray has expressed to me in the past that we need to maintain a balance in that because we don't want to bring too much attention to these things and therefore draw other people who might end up just being vandals to pay attention to the cemeteries. So we've got this one with
Yeah.
Mr. Pettinger, who's the owner, or who's the adjacent owner and who owns the access way. And then we have a similar
Right.
situation with the Wolverton Cemetery, which is John Casey actually owns the land, I believe, in addition to owning the access point. And all the town has in that case is maybe it's, I don't know if it's a verbal or a written agreement that the town has permission to get in there to maintain it periodically. But I don't think the town actually even goes in there more than maybe once a year with a weed whacker to clear it out. So that's
Is that the property that's for sale, the one on Westlake Road?
it's not for
No.
sale. No, it's the one where there was a very large house built recently. It's 3814 on the map here that you're looking at. And
I'm
the
not looking at
cemetery.
it. I'm not looking at it, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So is it off of Westlake Road? I
North
mean,
of
it's,
Weifels Road.
okay, it's north of Whiteville, so the access is from there. Because when Ray and I went there to do that video back in 2010, I think, it was, we had permission from the people, I can't remember the guy's name now, on Westlake Road that has quite a large house, and that's for sale
yeah,
right
that
now.
was Raj Case's house.
No, it wasn't,
and that
it
house
wasn't the
was
case house,
demolished.
it was next door.
And
I
now
can't remember
there's-
the guy. But either way, that's how we went to the Westlake Road access point. And but I knew there was one coming from, is it Weifels Road there? Yeah. From Weifels Road, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know where the cemetery is, and I don't know where the other access is, if there is one.
It's
But
very,
anyway,
very cool.
If we were to do an article, it might make sense to do one on each. Or maybe we
Yes.
treat them completely separately, I don't know. I'll talk to Ray about both.
Well, Ray would have a better sense of it because he knows the people, he knows the relationship, and it definitely is a sensitive one, that's for sure. So you're right, we can't create a big stir and send everybody there. But just, maybe it doesn't even have to be a big article. It could be good. We've had questions at the town hall that, could we go through this? And it could just be, this is what the story is right now. And it may change, it may not. But,
Yeah, good point.
so. Uh-oh. Oh, okay.
All right, very good. Well, thank you all for participating, and
Sarah, Linda,
yes,
this is Gil Smith. Could you give me a call at my home when we're done?
sure.
Completely separate matter.
Mhm. All right, I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't know what
Thank
we
you,
have.
Sarah Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
Sarah.
Farewell till
Thank you,
September.
Sarah.
I don't know what we do exactly to sign off here, but
That's on me. I'll end it right now. So take
Okay.
care, everyone. I'll
thank
see
you,
you
Eric.
later soon.